Well, hello, folks. It seems things are coming together rather piss poorly for the Ukrainian refugees fleeing the military intervention of Russia, Ukraine, and the eastern Donbass regions. Millions of Ukrainians flee. Canada jumped in there with their false promises, their big guarantees, told all these Ukrainians, oh, come to Canada. Canada's great. It's wonderful. There's lots of jobs. You're going to have a 3-year sponsorship. You can stay here, get great jobs. Join the new Green Deal. Great jobs await you. So a lot of these Ukrainian refugees, thousands in fact, came to Canada. I think it's a little over 5,500, and it's not huge, folks. It's not huge comparatively to Poland and other nations, but for those who've come now, the data and stats are in. The overwhelming money is gone. Individuals given $3,000 Canadian, a $600 a month welfare program, plus $3,000 off the hop. Full sponsorship with social security numbers, 3 years to work like an EB2 in the USA. They give that out for these Ukrainians in Canada, saying, don't worry, jump all immigration. You guys get first priority over everybody else in the entire world who's been waiting in line. Don't worry, come here. We're going to make sure you get first priority. There are great jobs in Canada waiting for you. And these people, these women, and then their children, they show up. News stories like CBC, they run one woman who has a great doctorate level position in Canada. Boy, she's going to be taken care of very well. But what do you think for the other thousands, folks, when we start looking at the stats? $3,000 given off the hop, applied for $600 a month. Well, for many of those women and their children, and with those with family and friends who could put them up, rents in eastern Canada, especially Toronto, $2,000 a month. None of these women can afford it. Their children have costs associated with all public transportation, school, and much more. The kind of costs that don't exist in Ukraine. Unitary Ukraine, very socialist. None of these costs existed. In fact, while Ukrainians don't have tremendous purchasing power, there's a lot of corruption there. A lot of former Soviets have gone through it, but the reality is they don't have the same costs we have. End user fees. They don't have the explosive amount of rental costs associated with trying to live. They don't have any of that. Their rental costs in Ukraine were tremendously lower, even for skilled or unskilled alike, didn't matter. But these people promised by Trudeau that there's great jobs that await them. Learn the true Canadian reality that there are no great and glorious jobs. There are a whole bunch of low-paying shit jobs that nobody can afford to do. Now, when I say that, people say, well, people want to work, they can work. What does $20 an hour look like? Just $20 to $21 an hour look like for a single parent with children from another country. And that's if you can even get one of those highly skilled, hard-on-you physical jobs, basically manual labor. But you only need a high school graduation. Your English may not be important. That's what awaits Ukrainians in Ontario, which a large amount went to. Rental agreements of $2,000 a month for 2-bedroom living. That's what these Ukrainians face at $20 an hour, plus the costs of transportation, the costs to get childcare for your children, and on and on and on. The costs balloon quite quickly, and you realize $20 an hour with all the government's green new taxes doesn't afford that lifestyle. Nowhere in the GTA. If you're not making $35 an hour, you're never going to be able to afford to live. You're going to have to supplement your income with your body, with illegal substances and selling that. You're going to have to join the growing criminal element in Canada. Folks, you can't make it on that $21 average in the GTA anymore. That's not possible. You can't rent a home as a $21 an hour person. So how do you afford gasoline for a car, or even afford to buy a car or register and insure a car and go through all the costs associated with that? Never mind the gasoline. Now they say, well go get an electric car, go borrow one. So how does a Ukrainian refugee that was suckered in here from the Trudeau government, how do they go about doing all that in the next 3 years? The answer is they don't. The answer is they can't. Trudeau used these people to come over to fill a slave role of low-paying jobs. And there's many of these Ukrainian women who are highly educated, but there's no jobs in their field. Many of them are finding that after applying for 3 months, all they can get is low tier, between minimum wage to $20 an hour maximum. Nothing even remotely close to what they went to school for. Heavy labor, long hours. They don't know the Canadian system. How do you afford to find child care for your children? How do you afford all the extra costs associated with education for your children? How do you afford transportation? Welcome to the reality for all Canadians each and every day. Canada is unsustainably developed. And you've learned that now. Exactly what Vladimir Putin told all Ukrainians is what most Ukrainian refugees arriving in Canada and now have spent 3 months in Canada are learning, that Canada is one big fat lie. As does all the Filipinos, all the Southeast Asians, all, like, this is Middle East and throughout India and everywhere else, that you can be highly competent, skilled. You spent a lot of money to get here, and you find out that Canada's a lie. That there are no major jobs. I mean, yes, for a very small select handful there are, but reality is you're pushed into trades you never wanted to join, or heavy manual labor, or those low, unskilled jobs. You're a backfill. And what's that backfill for? For the wealthy elite, so that they have a good, consistent slave labor to keep their lifestyles up here while the majority continue to go down. They use you, as they use most immigrants, to chip at the wages, to keep wages down of the low and middle class, so that their wealth can grow at an exponential rate. This is the truth of Canada. It's not made up. It's pure reality. I would like to hear success stories. I would like to hear from people who swear that Canada is so wonderful and great, and I don't know what I'm talking about Ukraine and Russia, because I have 6th generation Ukrainians in my family bloodline. Romanians, Ukrainians. People try to talk to me about things like I don't know, and it's like I most certainly do know. I know exactly how Ukrainians were treated in Canada, even in my home province of Alberta. I know what happened to all the Ukrainian men. I still have friends alive and well today, much older than me, that even their relatives, who are all same as my family, 5th, 6th generation Albertans, that can tell you what happened to everybody who was Ukrainian. Not good. And it's exact same thing now. Now, maybe they're not putting men in work camps, but they're basically using these female refugees saddled with their children, advertised to come here by Trudeau, promised them, jobs, we're so short, highly skilled people. Well, that's weird because none of them have any jobs in any highly skilled fields. In fact, they haven't scored any jobs at all. They're all out of money. They're blowing through their savings and they're having to work shitty, low-paying jobs that don't pay everything. They don't pay everything. They can't even afford to live in the GTA, especially Toronto. None of them can afford to live there. It was all a lie. It's all a scam. Welcome to South Simcoe. If you ever get a chance, any Canadian, go to Oshawa, South Simcoe. Go down Simcoe Street South, and you will be shocked and awed at the literal blocks and blocks of impoverished peoples in Canada. Homeless, way out of whack. I got Americans who are from places like Chicago, Detroit, Michigan, and they will tell you that they've never seen anything like the homelessness and beggars that you see throughout Canada's major cities, Toronto, Vancouver, Edmonton, Alberta, and they're just shocked. They're shocked at the narratives they make about places like Detroit, Michigan, and Chicago, Illinois. And you know what, folks? Comparatively to how much homelessness, Canada's way off the charts. Way off the charts. I thought we're this great socialist country. I thought that everything we do is better than everybody else. That's what we profess to the world, when it's a real and utter total lie. Most people don't travel. Most people can't afford it. People can't even afford to go to work these days in Canada. How are they to afford to travel and learn these truths? I will be going through it. I know most of the media's propaganda. I know that things aren't. I've had conservatives, lots of conservatives, tell me the most outrageous stories about the States. And if you go do this, they'll do this, and your life isn't worth nothing. It's like, wow, interesting, right? And again, how long did you live in this place? Oh, I didn't. I just got friends. And what? Oh, so it's hearsay. It's all BS. It's BS that you tell yourself and tell others so that you keep the cycle going, right? It's fear and it's propaganda. Just do what the mighty government tells you. Later today, folks, I'm going to be doing Pierre-Paul Levere entirely, word from his written, absolute written publications on the CPC and his vision. His written policies, literally hundreds of them. I'm going to give that presentation. It's going to be several hours tonight. We're going to go through each and every critical bullet. Never mind the rest of what I call socialism. There's hundreds of them. But I'm going to read off all the groups, civil societies, corporations, and individuals who sponsored and paid for this and are inside Pierre's little group, which is also Harper's group. It's CPC, and we're going to go through it policy by policy. Now, there's literally hundreds of policies, recommendations they have for Canada going forward. This is written by some number of economists, one of which I know very well, very disappointed in. When I read the list, you're going to hear from the attached societies, many of which you guys have heard of before, and you're going to be shocked at just, I thought that was conservative. I'm clearly certain that's Green Party. Whoa, I'm clearly certain that's liberal. But yet they're all tied together in one group, signed, sealed, certified. I'm going to read the name of the individuals, and there's some billionaires you're very familiar with there. And this is what Pierre-Paul Levere signed off on. He signed off on. He's the vice chair, and it's what he published February 21st, 2021 for all of you. Very proud of it. Very proud of it. And then I'm going to ask Canadians, as I go through it, I'm going to ask all of you, not only to share it because it's real, and I think I might even do a split screen because I like to use the Facebook platform. I'm going to get one of my friends to do a split screen share with me, and I'm actually going to transfer the document that I've put together, like to really cut it down into absolutely what I have isolated as serious critical problems with what Pierre Paul is going to bring to all of you. And I want you all to look at that. And I want it to be up on the screen as I go through each bullet. So I'm going to talk to somebody tonight about that. I've created the file. I've cut it down, took out all the pieces, and I made it nice and articulate. I've got a list of all the names of the organizations and groups, and I'm going to show you absolutely Pierre Poilievre's signature, and absolutely it's his publication. If anyone dares question it, it's published for you, 42nd Parliamentary Session, number 2, and it's the second down. When you open that up, you can look it up in the Library of Parliament. When you pop it open, it comes right up, and you can go through it in its original as it is, that he signed, sealed, and certified. And you tell me, as we go through these massive amounts of critical bullets, you tell me that what he's put in writing and what he's campaigning on is any different than Justin Trudeau or the rest of the lunatics. And the answer is it isn't, folks. And when politicians lie to you, which they're legally allowed to, but yet they put in writing the truth, and you ignore that, well, you're asking for what you get. And you do. Canadians get it time and time again. We don't have much time before there is no way back. And financially, we're almost there. If we could settle Canada constitutionally with the First Peoples, it would be a reset for everybody, and it would give a tremendous amount of wealth. But how we get there is the question, and how do we even get a prime minister to get that coveted seat of prime minister, meaning winning an election, at least in a minority, to get that position, be able to implement these changes, implement a we the people system, and implement real constitutionalism. That means federal dismemberment. It means locking out all provinces through lieutenant governors and forcing provincial constitutionalism for the first time in Canadian history. You do this across all of Canada. It's not super hard. Is there a cost there? Yes, it's $165 million as it stands now, which is completely much cheaper than your average policy that I'm going to go through by one Pierre Poilievre. And he has put this forward, folks, not me. And it's in his writing. He was the vice chair. He signed, sealed, certified, and stamped that, published it in 2021, February 21st, just over a year ago. Now people can say, oh, he's changed. If he has changed, he would have published a new future for Canada in 2022. But he didn't. He's sticking with that first one. It's exactly like Harper. It's a lot of propaganda. It's not true. It's a lot of the left totally taken on. It's an expense of the West, absolutely at the great success of the East, so they think. But it doesn't work like that. Centralization never works like that. When you read it, it's all about, I'm going to give you with your own money, just like the Liberals. And I don't see any sustainability there. I don't even see a reality there. I see a ton of false promises and massive socialism, liberal socialism. I don't see anything about anything he talks about. But Canadians fall for this flip-flop system back and forth. They tell you what you want to hear, and you let them do the opposite every time. And you cry, you complain, and then you turn around and vote somebody else, hoping that the next dictator will be better than the last. There are no rules of governance. There's no how to govern, and there's definitely no accountability. These poor Ukrainians were dragged across the ocean to Canada, and now are likely trapped here as a first-generational, low-tier, third-class slave. That's how it works. That's how it works for everybody. People learn, and they work hard, and all they tell themselves is, I'll work hard, put up with the abuse, and I'll have a better life for my children. But, it's different for Ukrainians. They went through absolutely the USSR. They are measurably lots higher in social programs, but the governments are more accountable. Also, too, folks, there's a big difference between Canada and Ukraine. Ukraine is a solid country. There's no crown lands. All that private property is made available to most of the citizenry. And Canada, that's not the case. You're very congested here. There's no land, and then that's why we have such a tremendous cost of living, way higher per person per capita than what Ukraine was. A very, very corrupt European country, but it's much harder to make a go of life here in Canada than it was in Ukraine, at least before the Russian military operation. And it also depends where you are in Ukraine, obviously. But I think a lot of people who evacuated, came to Canada, are starting to now look at it that, oh my God, what Putin said was true. We've been had, we've been duped. You got an initial check, you get $600 a month, and then it's welcome to pumping gas. Oh, but I'm a tech wizard. I have a 4-year degree in this. Well, we got no jobs like that. That was Trudeau's lie. What, the Green New Deal? All these new jobs, where? If you had looked at Canada, you'd know that foreign investment has fled out of Canada at an unprecedented rate. The only investment in Canada is borrowing against the taxpayer, printing money, and like pigs at the trough, people lining up under the Green New Deal to make as much money, whether it's viable or not. And it's not viable. You're going to watch that one billionaire, Elon Musk, is the biggest joke, the biggest scam, and that the electric car whole system isn't going to fly, at least not in Canada. Anyone telling you that is way out to lunch. 2023, we have 28 years to transition into all electric, to have everybody borrow a minimum of $32,000 to convert their homes, cars that are mass amount of money. Then we all have to borrow, and we have to make sure the system taxes us to set up car charging stations all over the city. Think about every parking lot. Instead of plugging your car in, you're going to have a 110 battery system. Anyone who sees this as viable or even achievable or possible is right out to lunch. And a bunch of liars are making a tremendous amount of money. The same kind of liars that lured the Ukrainians here, who are now finding out they're burning through their savings. There's nothing left for them, and they're trapped in Canada. And if they don't accept the slave class system here at the end of 3 years, they're going to get sent home with nothing. Unbelievable. It's unbelievable how sick Canada is. A lot of people hate Canada, especially the newcomers. They find out Canada's a lie. They try to work hard to make it better, but you and your kids become the slaves of the future. There are no unending government jobs. There are no critical, skilled, highly needed jobs in Canada. It's all a lie. You need to produce. You need to manufacture. You need to sell resources. Real GDP. Canada isn't doing that. They're going the other way. So anything else is an illusion. It's borrowed. It's printed on the printing machines called money. And there's an expiry date on that for all Canadians. And from first world, you find yourself dropping to second world and then third world. Now, Canada thinks, well, no, we can just have this housing crisis bubble by colonial immigration. Refugee and colonial immigration. That's how we're going to win this. Just keep importing more and more slave class from all over the world. Trick them, lie to them, cheat them, just like they do taxpayers. That's what they do. They pay all these people, like all the Ukrainians that got $3,000 each right off the hop. That's all against the Canadian taxpayers. So you've weakened the tax system and base. More of your taxes go to servicing the debt than anything else, and they keep increasing interest rates. And guess what happens when defaults, bankruptcies, consumer debt proposals go in? The entire cost of the debt falls on the taxpayers, largely and predominantly the third-class Canadians. to work in Joe Jane's. Soon, you won't be able to afford to work in Canada. And Trudeau, like Venezuela and many, many others, is going to go, I don't understand why the system's crumbling. Why can't people work for $10 an hour when the cost of living is 3 times what they make an hour? Think about it, but he doesn't. He's a wealthy, silver-spooned, lunatic, crazy politician. The only other worse one is our finance minister, Chrystia Freeland. She's an absolute liar, a joke, a pathetic individual. How could you ever have that woman as your finance minister? The way she talks about resources transitioning into a Green New Deal. Where is the manufacturing and resources and the jobs associated with that and the global market that we're selling to back up your claims and how we're going to transition into this economy? Who's it for, Chrystia Freeland? Oh, your wealthy political base to slave the third class. You hate working people. A lot of people talk about this. Republicans talk about it. And it's the fact that a lot of unions are corrupted now, too. They've gone the way of crazy now. They're not even into their members. They're into lunatic left narratives. They're led by the government of autocrats that basically want to enslave and end the working Canadians. And I don't know why so many systems get born and bred into this. Like, it's unbelievable. You watch what happened to Venezuela. You watch all over the world these systems crash before their dictators every time. And they never, ever get any better. But yet people keep trying to reinvent that popped tire wheel. It's a flat tire. Well, why do you want to put it on and think you're going to go drive around with that? You're going to wreck the rim. You're going to wreck your vehicle. You're going to end up with nothing. You're going to end up walking with nothing. But yet people want to do it. And I don't get it. This is my video. This is the truth. Show me Ukrainians who are super happy. In a majority of all those who came to Canada. It's not a super mass amount of numbers. It's not. It's not. But show me any of them claiming they have a better standard of living and a better job here in any kind of real majority. And I don't want to hear about the 1%. Oh, I'm a astrophysicist, or I got in with the University of Toronto, or I got in on this faculty or this major civil society. Oh, sure, there's a couple that you guys got. But for the vast majority, tell me how they're all doing. Oh, not good at all. Not good at all. And Canada proves to be a worse situation than what they left. I just can't believe people are this naive and foolish to bite into the apple that all is well and great in Canada, that we're on the path of success. Any economist looking at numbers, looking at foreign investment, looking at Canada as it is today, can't, in any real normal sense or truth, tell you that this is a formula for success going forward. It isn't, folks. Any real mainstream economist, if they're not telling you that we are headed for a massive depressionary recession, is just a liar. I don't see how anyone can be telling you that with all the numbers we've went through and what we see coming and what the Bank of Canada has to do. Somebody has to pay for all this, folks. And in the design of Canada, that's working Joe Jane, filthy third class. And all savage Indians, of course, because what little resources we are able to utilize has to be accommodated from those people. Don't forget that. That's the truth. Truth people don't like to know, but that is the truth. And it's now the truth for so many Ukrainian women who fled the Russia-Ukraine military operation. They fled and they came here on the promise of something better, and all they got was a swift kick in the ass as they bleed out all their savings, lose everything they ever had from Ukraine. Canada expensing them. Welcome to the third class. Vladimir Putin was right. He told you the truth. You're going to find that the cost of living here is tremendously higher than what you left. That's my video. Bye now.